नमस्कार। इस दिल से के एपिसोड में हम जो युद्ध हो रहा है इज़राइल, अमेरिका और ईरान के बीच, उसकी चर्चा कम करेंगे, क्योंकि उसकी चर्चा हम 3-4 एपिसोड में कर चुके हैं। लेकिन आज हम एक विशेष चर्चा करेंगे कि दुनिया में जो वॉरफेयर है, जो जंग है, उसकी परिभाषा बदल रही है और बदल चुकी भी है। कितने हद तक बदल रही है, कितने हद तक बदल चुकी है, उसके बारे में चर्चा करेंगे। अब आप देखते हो कि सबसे ताकतवर देश अमेरिका, दुनिया में सबसे ताकतवर देश, उनके पास बॉम्बर्स, उनके पास स्टेल्थ एयरक्राफ्ट, उनके पास क्या क्या नहीं है, नेवल फोर्स कितनी है, इंटीग्रेशन है उनके पास, टेक्नोलॉजी और मिलिट्री हार्डवेयर का सब कुछ है उनके पास। लेकिन कई दिन हो गए, 1 महीने से ज़्यादा हो गया, लेकिन ईरान ने अपने हथियार नहीं छोड़े और लड़ाई भी कर रहा है। उनके पास एयर पावर भी नहीं है, उनके पास नेवल फ्लीट भी नहीं है, उनके पास केवल ड्रोन्स हैं और सस्ती टेक्नोलॉजी के द्वारा वो अपने हौसले के द्वारा उनका सामना कर रहे हैं। अब अमेरिका ने कहा है कि हम अपने मरीन्स वहाँ भेजेंगे, पैराट्रूपर्स भेजेंगे, 50,000 लोग भेजेंगे। ईरान कहता है आप आइए, आपका स्वागत है, हम आपकी देखभाल करेंगे एक दूसरे तरीके से। तो ये सब बात ईरान कह रहा है। क्यों कह रहा है? ईरान के पास तो इतना साधन भी नहीं है। लेकिन जो ये जंग है वो मुझे लगता है कि इसमें अरिथमेटिक ज़्यादा काम कर रहा है और बाकी चीज़ें कम। कि अगर आप ड्रोन इतनी तादाद में भेजेंगे, जो इंटरसेप्टर हैं, जो कई $मिलियन के होते हैं, इतने तो हैं नहीं, और जितने इंटरसेप्टर इस्तेमाल होंगे उतनी उनकी कमी होगी। तो आप 40-50 हज़ार ड्रोन आप मैन्युफैक्चर कर सकते हो। कहाँ करते हो, कहाँ नहीं करते, ये भी अमेरिका को मालूम नहीं, क्योंकि 40% ईरान तो माउंटेनस है, तो उन्हें छिपाई हुई उनकी कैपेबिलिटीज़ हैं और वो तैयार हैं, जनता भी तैयार है। तो क्या वाकई में जंग की परिभाषा ईरान की लड़ाई के संदर्भ में बदल रही है? क्या हिंदुस्तान तैयार है अगर ऐसी जंग हिंदुस्तान में हो? देखिए, अगर आप सोचें तो अमेरिका तो कई मीलों दूर है, हज़ारों मीलों दूर है, और इज़राइल भी साथ उनका नेबर नहीं है। लेकिन हमारे पास तो यहाँ पाकिस्तान हमारा नेबर, चीन हमारा नेबर। क्या हम तैयार हैं? कितनी हद तक तैयार हैं? अगर हैं तैयार तो कितना और करना चाहिए? तो ये बातें हम करेंगे। और ये एक ख़ास एपिसोड है जिसमें 3 ऐसे लोग हैं जो डिफेंस सर्विसेज को बिलोंग करते हैं, और वो हमें बताएंगे, क्योंकि उनका तो बड़ा अनुभव रहा है, वो हमें बताएंगे कि क्या स्थिति है, क्या होना चाहिए, और क्या वाकई में जंग की परिभाषा बदली हुई है नहीं। सबसे पहले थैंक यू वेरी मच लेफ्टिनेंट जनरल A.K. Singh for coming here. You have commissioned in the 7th Light Cavalry, one of the oldest armored regiments, in June 1973. Early years as a young officer, you commanded the T-55 tanks, I believe, and over time transitioned seamlessly to leading formations equipped with advanced T-90 tanks. और फिर आप प्रोफेशनल एजुकेशन आपकी elite institutions में रही, आप बाहर भी पढ़े. You attended the Staff College at Camberley in the UK, the Malinovsky Tank Academy in Moscow, Royal College of Military Science in the UK, National Defense College, India and Sweden. And you have a unique training path which gave you a rare distinction of being the only Indian officer trained both in NATO as well as in the Warsaw Pact forces. Technically, you're a BSc MPhil in Defense Studies. That's great. PhD from Pune University, 40 years service, and culminated as the General Officer of Commander-in-Chief of Southern Command in Pune, the Indian Army's largest geographical command. So you have a lot of experience in how wars are won. You have had outstanding service. You won the Param Vishisht Seva Medal, the Ati Vishisht Seva Medal, Sena Medal, and the Vishisht Seva Medal VSM. So thank you very much for being here. You've been also Lieutenant Governor of Andaman and Nicobar as well as Puducherry. Thanks a lot. Very kind of you to participate in this discussion. Vice Admiral Sanjay Singh, thank you very much. You know, your father was a great friend of mine, and I had great admiration for him. And we used to interact when he was head of the Defense Studies Institute. And he was an Air Force pilot and awarded the Veer Chakra for his gallantry in the 1971 India-Pakistan. It's a special pleasure for you to be on my show. You are presently Director General of the United Service Institute of India. I believe the journal was set up, it started in 1870.
Yes.
And you are probably the second naval officer to head it.
Yes.
You entered the Navy in 1986, got the Sword of Honor when you passed out in the naval, as a naval cadet. 39 years of distinguished service. Notable sea commands include INS Taragiri, INS Trishul, served as flag officer commanding Western Fleet in 2019, flag officer sea training in Kochi. I can go on and on. The kind of and of course, more than that, you're the 37th Vice Chief of Naval Staff from April 23 to December 23. You Deputy Chief of Integrated Defense Staff Operations, Commandant of Indian Navy Academy and Naval War College in Goa. And you have actually been in Iran, and you've done a sort of a study of Iran, which very few people in India have done. So you give us a great insight into what's happening. More important than anything else, you were responsible for drafting the maritime doctrine in India in 2009 and the Indian Maritime Security Strategy in 2015. So, it's a real pleasure for you to be with us today and give us an insight into what's happening. Major General Bishambar Dayalji, you've been on the show earlier, and I can't have a show without you.
No, thank you so much.
There's a reason for it, because you're open, you're transparent, you say what you believe, and that's very important for people to listen. क्योंकि जब तक आदमी खुल के बोले नहीं, जनता को पता नहीं चलेगा कि हमारी स्थिति क्या है. So thank you very much for being here. 3.5 decades of leadership and administrative experience. Sainik Sool Kunjapura, commissioned in the Armored Corps in 1978, commanded Armored Regiment and Armored Brigade, Tank Brigade, and General Officer commanding in Purva, UP and MP sub-area. And you managed 2.5 lakh ex-servicemen, honored with the Vishish Seva Medal. Military attaché, and this is very important.
Assistant
military attaché in Russia.
Yes.
In March 1998 to 2001, when the Kargil war was going on.
Yes.
Right? And then, of course, you have a diplomatic tenure. You were posted as Deputy Director Equipment. Now, this is very important because you know about the nature of modernization, right, from 2009 to 2012 of the Army warfare machinery. And you retired from active service, and now whenever I switch on the TV, you're always there.
And in between, I was chairman of Socham National Council of
Yes.
Defense and Aerospace, where I really learned about Indian industry, sir.
So, General Saab, आप बताइए कि, has the paribhasha of war changed at all?
Sibal Saab, my apologies के एक notebook हाथ में है. I said I can't face the most distinguished lawyer of India without being exact.
आप कटघरे में नहीं हो, मैं क्रॉस एग्जामिन नहीं कर रहा.
नहीं. Thank you for that reassurance. But एक छोटी सी चीज कहना चाहूँगा. ये क्लॉज़विट्ज़ के टाइम से है. Nature of war and character of war. It is generally established that the nature of war is enduring and doesn't change. And it has 3 characteristics. First, it is violent. Second, there is more than one side, could be more. And lastly, it is political in nature. And you can apply this criteria anywhere, you will find it fitting. Character of war, दूसरी तरफ, change होता रहता है. It depends on the context, on the era, on technology. Technology plays a major part in changing the character of war, and you see it today. It's the technology that has changed the character of war. तो एक तो ये distinction है. दूसरा मैं कहना चाहूँगा कि while we take lessons from Russia, Ukraine, from Iran, Israel, US war, Our context is slightly peculiar. We have two neighbors, China and Pakistan, who are in strategic cahoots. We have disputed land borders with them. And having a land border contiguous to your possible adversary is a critical aspect. Also, the two are at different levels as adversaries. Pakistan is more or less a low technology power, whereas China, sir, China is looking up to the US as an adversary,
That's right.
not to India. So we have to cater for these two in India. And मोटे तौर पे हमारा डायलेमा क्या है आपको बताना चाहूँगा. India believes if we can solve our issues without going to war. But the best guarantee of that is if we are prepared for it. And as far as today's character of war is concerned, we have a very large inventory of legacy weapon system, tanks, artillery, aircraft, naval ships, etc. They require technological upgradation, which is our priority. At the same time, we seem to have missed the early parts of this technology revolution that is going on. And we need to catch up. Robotics, precision weaponry, space, cyber, much is being done, at least what I am aware, and our two panelists will share on that. If I was to sum up, how prepared are we to fulfill our aims and missions on security? I would say we are reasonably well prepared, not optimally prepared. Even America is not optimally prepared. It's always a time race to continue to catch up. But I think what it requires is a combined focus of the government, the armed forces, all stakeholders, and a whole of nation approach. That's my
मेरा
hope.
थोड़ा से इसमें
हाँ जी सर, पूछिए.
मैं आपके क्योंकि you had a think tank, so maybe I'll request you to elaborate a bit on this. जो मैं समझता हूँ, ईरान की मैं बात करता हूँ कि उनको मालूम था कि उनके ऊपर हमला होगा, क्योंकि निश्चित है उनको मालूम था, क्योंकि 88 में जब इराक वॉर ख़त्म हुई तो उसके बाद वो तैयारी कर रहे थे, और उस तैयारी की वजह से वो 20-30 साल से तैयारी कर रहे थे. उस तैयारी की वजह से टुडे दे आर इन अ सिचुएशन दैट दे आर इन. तो हमें भी मालूम है कि वॉर तो किसी टाइम भी हो सकती है, तो हमें भी 20-30 साल से तैयारी करनी चाहिए थी और उन एरियाज़ में. फॉर एग्जांपल टेक द यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका, एंड आई एम रेजिंग दिस बिकॉज you had a think tank. When Obama was in power, Obama decided that I will try and integrate military hardware with these Silicon Valley companies, right? And Ash Carter was the defense secretary at that time. And that integration started then. Today what is happening is that the entire Silicon Valley, whether it is Microsoft or it's whatever, all the companies, L&T, so many companies, are fully working with military establishments. In fact, every military operation that is to be done is integrated with software companies providing solutions, right? And solutions which allow you to promptly attack with precision, and integrate satellite imagery with drone capability, with all kinds of other things. Now, we should have thought about this. And you mentioned about the nation, the army, and the government. What about our software technologists
Sir,
and our software?
if I intervene before Admiral takes on. In 2012-13, I got hold of a book which was presented. It was called Wired for War, P.W. Sanger 2009-10 vintage US publication. I read it, I reread it, and I was amazed. I confirm what you are saying. In 2010, America was spending billions and billions of dollars on unarmed vehicles, ground, air,
Yes,
and
yes.
sea.
Yes.
And where were they? All educational institutions,
Yes.
all labs, all private sector, Silicon Valley. I gave this book to our, God bless him, late CDS, General Bipin Rawat. I marked it and said, take it under you, we are late starters, but we need to take off now. So, your point is valid, we are late starters.
I will recommend another book to you called Unit X.
Okay.
Unit X is by one Indian and one American, who were actually integrating Silicon Valley into the military hardware. They are actually the people working. Right? Unit X was for unit experiment. The X was removed. It became a permanent feature. So I come back to you with the question that I raised.
Thank you, sir. Firstly, let me say that I'm privileged to be part of this show in your company and sitting on the correct side of General A.K. Singh, who's been a guru and a mentor for many years. Firstly, I'll endorse what he said, but I'd like to qualify what you brought about of wired for war. So the Western economies, and that includes the Soviet Union and Russia, their model of economic development has emanated from defense into civil. We must understand that when we talk of, look, they had enmeshing the defense industry with the civil industry, because most of the civil development that has taken place in the Western world pre-Second World War and post has emanated from R&D in defense, and the spin-offs of that have gone into the civil sector. Their concept and outlook on war is different from ours. They've had wars of choice. They've been through brutal 2 world wars with no holds barred, absolutely to the last round. They've gone to extreme destruction, something which we in our history only saw in odd times of marauders who are coming from various places. We never reached that level because it was always, let the warrior fight to the warrior. There was always a concept of both just war and just means of war. Jus in bello, jus in bellum was always there for us in a different format. So if we take their example, we may draw some wrong lessons. They have been built, the entire outlook and policy in the history has been oriented more towards warfare as a policy. Ours has been towards deterrence and defense.
Right.
Our policy has always been create the space of preventing war rather than waging war. So building up the capability to fight war has always been to the level that you prevent the war from happening. That means you raise the cost of victory or you deny it. Deterrence by denial or deterrence by punishment. And if it were to break out and deterrence fail, then prosecute the war in a manner that you're able to bring it to a favorable conclusion at the earliest possible, so you can turn around and concentrate back on our national growth. Now, if we were to start adopting the Western outlook and policy, it would invert the way we have done our growth and development since independence. In our case, most of the defense developments have come from the other side. You made the developments in the civil sector, you've done your R&D in the civil side and the commercial side, and then you adopted and adapted it into the defense side.
That's how DRDO does these things.
DRDO does a lot of indigenous research, but a lot of adaptation is done directly by the armed forces themselves. That's where when we have procured arms from abroad, we have adapted them to our conditions, our requirements, our ways of warfare, and brought in value additions at various stages. And hence we have हम वो हस्ती हैं कि जो सर चवन्नी को भी जो है ₹1 तक खींच सकते हैं. And that is what we've done. We are the ones who operate the MiG-21 for close to 60 years.
मैं एक सवाल पूछना चाहता हूँ, if you don't mind. ईरान की आप स्थिति देखो. ईरान कोई हमला तो नहीं करने वाला था किसी पे आज के दिन. उनकी तो स्ट्रैटेजी यही है कि हम पे हमला होगा और हम उसी स्थिति में हैं. हम पे हमला होगा, लेकिन हम कॉस्ट ऑफ वॉर इतना बढ़ा दें कि उनको नुकसान ज़्यादा होगा. ठीक है ना. आप चाइना से आप मुकाबला नहीं कर सकते. आई एम सॉरी टू से. That is deterrence. I want to be clear.
Deterrence.
China is too far ahead of us in technology. They have Baidu, the satellite, which integrates everything. They are number one in robotics in the world. They're ahead of America in robotics in the world. They are behind them in many other things.
Yet we've held them off at Galwan. Yet we've held them
No,
off at Samdrongchu. Yet we hold them off at Nathula.
That's a skirmish. That's not a war.
We didn't prevent it. We didn't allow it to go beyond that because we had a certain strategy by which we were able to hold them back.
I don't dispute that. What I'm just saying is, if you think that if a war takes place, are we fully prepared to be that deterrent? That's the question.
Okay, let me expand on that two ways, sir. All warfare cannot be seen in terms of pure combat power, and you're seeing that right now between the United States and Iran. The sheer combat power that the United States is able to bring onto the field, certainly the West expected that Iran will fold up 5 weeks plus and fighting back hard. So it is not a question of direct.
Correct.
Second part is, as you said correctly, say Iran's strategy has been right from the beginning. There are two things they were aware of, that someday they will come under attack. So they also adopted a deterrence. Now their deterrence was at two levels. One was active defense. Build up proxies far away from me so the war is never on my territory. And that's why you see the Hezbollah, the Houthis, the Hamas. Second is asymmetric warfare. They also were well aware that they cannot and would not be fighting a war on equal planes or on their borders. Unlikely. If it came to that, they would have to fight an asymmetric. So they put a lot of their efforts in fighting asymmetric warfare.
Correct.
In our case, as you brought out, you have disputes, and as General AK brought out, you have disputes along the land border. You have skirmishes that have taken place all through the last 80 years. Your endeavor has been to limit the skirmish. Correct. Because it has not been in our interest to allow, that's why our policy has been to prevent war.
Absolutely.
Not to wage war. Waging war is when deterrence has failed.
We shouldn't also. It's not our policy.
So that's our policy. So
yes,
if that is our policy, then the defense budget, the defense preparation, everything has to be aligned with the national policy. So we don't look at it in the same manner. Whenever we faced a skirmish, it has been, we've adopted and say what kind of deterrence will work for us. And if that deterrence doesn't work, how do I contain it? We haven't done too badly. There are places where we had challenges. We are also adapting and adopting. The issue comes back, are we a war economy? Are we a country that is going to put in all our effort into defense and warfare and then look at the rest of the spin-off coming in the way some others have done? Some have done successfully, some have failed very badly at it. So it emanates from the national policy. Now today, are we prepared for the aims and threats that we are facing? Yes, we are. We've shown it time and again. Have we been able to acquit ourselves over the last 80 years in every conflict and war exceedingly well except one, which we are all aware of? And even there were portions that we did exceedingly well in. And there was a little of confusion. Let's not get into that at this stage. But we have done. Do we need to expand and prepare for the warfare changes that we are seeing today? Absolutely. Because a lot is changing. And we are seeing those changes taking place as a continuum. Are we adopting and adapting those? We are. Last year you had Op Sindoor. We're almost at the 1-year anniversary mark of that. A lot of new technologies, asymmetric capabilities were brought in. We are able to adapt and adopt our old technologies, as you said, and brought in certain changes in both equipment and tactics, and we are able to deal with it, sir.
So you think that China is a war-mongering country? No, because you are.
So China's policy is to win the war without fighting. Now you build up your power to such a level that the other person gives up.
Besides, that's deterrence according to.
Now that's more than deterrence. That's coercive power at a different level.
No harm in that.
Deterrence is only where you're preventing you don't warfare to take place. But if you're looking at coercive power, then you're building your power asymmetric to such an extent that the other person just falls in line.
So the challenge for us, as I said, and I ditto what Admiral has said, is that we are faced with a multi-front situation. Other organs of state, let me just recount a small incident in military operations where I was Director General Perspective Planning. It was 2008-9. And we had put up that we need a government directive to cater for a two-front situation. So a presentation was made, all three services chiefs, everybody was there. And then I took on the podium and I said to the gathering, we are not warmongering. What we are asking for is deterrence as and when this manifests itself 10 years later,
Correct.
Which is today,
Correct.
more than 10 years. So one of the chiefs, I won't name, got up and said, AK, you are talking of your hat. In today's 21st century, one front will be held by diplomacy. And we'll fight one front. So I ignored him. I looked at the NSA, Mr. Menon, and the then Foreign Secretary. And I said, excellent, sir, if we have this assurance, our problems are solved. You know, I remember the classic reply of Mr. Menon. He said, General, diplomacy is the art of possibilities and feasibilities. Assurance is your subject.
शंबर जी, इस पे आप जरा, क्योंकि आपने सुन लिया दोनों को, अब बताइए आपकी राय क्या है इसमें?
देखिए सर, firstly, thank you very much, and I'm sitting with two of very revered, and Jan AK has been really, really very revered, and a mentor, friend, philosopher, and you know, I mean, I owe a lot to him, you know, and we all follow him on a lot of issues. And of course, I've been very fond of you in life. Let me tell you, sir, 2-3 things which I fully endorse whatever both of them have said. But I have a little one opinion that, look, warfare is why we fight. We fight because there is a politico-military objective. I'm of the opinion, sir, that the politico-military objectives used to be geographic and they used to be geostrategic objectives. Today, sir, there are no geostrategic visible objectives. Today, the wars are being fought on eco-strategic, conducive objectives, which are not spelled out. America has not spelled out. Nobody spells them out. And the wars are being not fought either for gaining a territory or for increasing your empire. Wars are being fought for issues which are actually till yesterday were part of diplomatic domain, and that diplomatic domain has completely crumbled. So issues which could have been solved with negotiations in say 15-20 years ago have today become real issues which are actually not nowhere to be seen. So warfare, the principles of war, जिस पे लड़ाई लड़ते हैं ना सब प्रिंसिपल, वो नहीं बदले सर, वो वही है. आज भी आपको कंसंट्रेट करना पड़ेगा कहीं ना कहीं अपना एफर्ट, आज भी आपको कहीं ना कहीं सरप्राइज देना पड़ेगा, और इसी में जो है आपको ईरान की बहादुरी और ईरान का जो सस्टेनेंस है वो इसी से निकल के आता है. क्या था सर, पहले लोग सोल्जर्स एंड घोड़े कंसंट्रेट करते थे कहीं डिसाइड करने, देन वी केम टू मशीन्स, टैंक्स, you know, aircraft. Now we have come to technologies, and technology is in different domain.
That's right.
And when you talk of different domains, sir, कहीं ना कहीं मतलब अगर आप अपने संदर्भ में बात करेंगे, हिंदुस्तान के संदर्भ में बात करेंगे, बात बहुत बड़ी बड़ी है. हम स्पेस वॉर की बात करते हैं. Do we have adequate satellites for the army dedicated in space? Considering the Indian border, जो आपकी border की चारों तरफ है, do you have that sort of a thing? Or you are dependent on somebody else? Does the Navy have that sort of dedicated naval satellites which can give them 24/7 of each area of interest and the type of information that's required? Because from there will flow what is the capability you have real terms of cyber attacks, what is the capability you have terms of, you know, ECM, what is the of this domain, what is the capability you have got in terms of इंफॉर्मेशन वॉरफेयर डोमेन. बिकॉज अगर जैसे यूक्रेन वॉर में क्या हुआ सर, रशिया ने पहले उसके पूरे के पूरे कम्युनिकेशन जैम कर दिया ना सर. जब तक प्रेसिडेंट जेलेंस्की इयन मस्क के पास नहीं पहुंचे और स्टारलिंक से नहीं कनेक्शन, ब्लैंक था ना सर सब कुछ. तो मतलब कि आप एक डोमेन जो हम बहुत बात करते हैं, वो डोमेन जो है मुझे नहीं लगता कि हम उस लेवल पे हैं जिस लेवल पे हमारे एडवर्सरी कुछ भी कहें. देखो सर, एक तरफ तो हम कहते हैं कि हमारा मेंटल माइंड सेट जो है ना सर, वो जो डॉक्ट्रिन और जिसकी बात कर रहे हैं बोथ ऑफ देम, वो बहुत डिफेंसिव है कि भाई हमने डिफेंड करना है, हमने लड़ाई लड़नी नहीं है, हमें डिफेंड करना है, हमारी जो है हमारे अंदर कोई ना घुसे, भाई हमें किसी पर अटैक नहीं करना. तो फिर पूरी की पूरा एफर्ट इसमें होना चाहिए ना. कहीं आप बोलते हो थिएटर कमांड, अरे भाई थिएटर्स तो भाई पैसिफिक थिएटर में लड़ाई लड़ने जा रहे हो यार. अटलांटिक थिएटर में लड़ाई लड़ने जा रहे हैं यार। नॉर्दर्न आर्मी कमांडर ने लड़ाई लड़नी यार, उसके पास उसको एडिक्वेट रिसोर्सेज दे दो यार। कल बोलो जी थिएटर कमांड में वो भी एक एयरफोर्स ऑफिसर कमांडर बन गया, जैसे हमारे यहाँ कुछ मैकेनाइज्ड फोर्सेज हैं जो इन्होंने 1 कोर कमांड की। सडनली आप एक ऑफिसर को ला के दे दो 1 कोर कमांड करने को, जिसने कभी उसमें वो सीखता ही रहेगा ना। तो मतलब मेरा मानना ये है सर कि ये बातें बहुत हैं सर और गैप्स बहुत हैं। अब मैं आता हूं सर जो एक्चुअल डोमेन। अब देखिए सरप्राइज दिया ईरान ने। ईरान तो 25 साल से पता था कि मुझे अपने आप को डिफेंड करना है, और उसने अपना मिसाइल प्रोग्राम कंप्लीटली एक डिफरेंस है सर। जब आप डेमोक्रेसी में हो ना सर, और मिलिट्री लीडरशिप जो है वो कंप्लीट कुछ चीजों के कंट्रोल में नहीं है। लड़ाई लड़ता है 24, दुश्मन जो है ना सर 24/7 मॉनिटरिंग है। मैं बार बार कहता हूं ISI 24/7 मॉनिटर करते हैं हिंदुस्तान में क्या करना है, कब करना है, कैसे करना है, राइट। उनका एक ही एम है सर। चाइना का एक ही एम है कि कम मौका लगना है कि इंडिया को कोर्स करके, इंडिया को अंडरमाइन करके दिखाना है। चाइना 24/7 का। सर ईरान ने 24/7 25 ईयर से काम किया। ये मिसाइल प्रोग्राम का 2009 में, ये जो मिसाइल आप देख रहे हो सर, ये बिल्कुल इस्टेब्लिश थी। 2015 में ये ड्रोन्स सबसे, मतलब दुनिया ड्रोन्स की बात कर रही थी इनके, सिंस हैज बीन इन ईरान, इनके ड्रोन्स तो सर ये बनाने लग गए थे, और ये कहीं से बाहर से टेक्नोलॉजी नहीं लाए। और इन्होंने तो शायद वो तो रशिया जैसी पावरफुल कंट्री को दिया ना 50,000 से ज्यादा।
right.
तो सर ये
वो इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं
तो सर एक डेडिकेटेड वो जो 25 साल से ये काम कर रही है कि भाई हमारे यहां घुसेगा और अगर हमारे अस्तित्व को खतरा होगा तो हम नहीं छोड़ेंगे। और ये जो जनरल एके ने बात की, और इन्होंने भी किया, ये रियलिटी है कि भाई वी हैव गॉट ए बॉर्डर। और जब बॉर्डर होता है ना सर, तो उसकी लड़ाई का एक कंसेप्ट बहुत अलग है सर। जब आपके देखिए ये स्टैंड ऑफ वॉर क्यों है, क्योंकि कोई क्लियर कट ज्योग्राफिक ऑब्जेक्टिव है नहीं। आप कह रहे हो जी मैंने उसकी न्यूक्लियर पावर खत्म करनी है, आप कह रहे हो जी मैंने उसकी पावर उसकी आईआर जी को खत्म करना ताकि उसकी सत्ता बदली जाए, आप कह रहे हो जी मैं उसकी एनर्जी सोर्सेज पे जो बोल नहीं रहे, जो एक्चुअली करना चाहते हो। तो ये जब वार होते हैं तो आप स्टैंड ऑफ वॉर लड़ते हो। तो स्टैंड ऑफ वॉर में ना तो कोई दीन है ना धर्म है, आपने किसको मारा, कब विक्ट्री डिक्लेयर कर दो। इन्होंने जस्ट जून में की थी। जब हमारी क्या मजबूरी है सर, हम लोग नहीं समझ रहे कि अगर हमारी लड़ाई लड़ती है और हम इस किस्म की लड़ाई पे प्लानिंग करेंगे तो हम मार खाएंगे।
चलिए मैं आपसे एक और सवाल पूछता हूँ। That's because you neither of you
सर मैं कुछ और बोलना चाह रहा था,
बोलिए।
क्योंकि बात चली DRDO की और स्ट्रक्चर की। सर आप साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी मिनिस्ट्री रहे।
जी हाँ, जी हाँ।
सर मेरा मानना ये है, और मैं 200% गलत हो सकता हूं, कि जो DRDO है ये डिफेंस मिनिस्ट्री के नीचे क्या कर रही है। वो जो साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी मिनिस्ट्री है, व्हाई डोंट यू क्लब इट। मेरा बहुत स्ट्रांग मानना ये है सर, जैसे इन्होंने कहा कि जो हैवी इंडस्ट्री है रशिया की, और मैं सर डिफेंस इंडस्ट्री में मेरी बहुत रिसर्च है, रशियन पे, यूक्रेनियन पे। मैं बार बार गया हूँ, मेरे रिटायरमेंट के बाद कम से कम 50-60 बार जा चुका हूँ। पोलैंड में, चेकोस्लोवाकिया में, इजराइल में सर, और इवन फ्रांस में, इवन जर्मनी में, न्यूरमबर्ग वगैरह में जहाँ इनकी इंटीरियर। सर मेरी आज तक समझ में नहीं आया, हैवी डिफेंस इंडस्ट्री आपके पास है, हैवी इंडस्ट्री आपके पास, आपकी डिफेंस, आपका DDP मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ डिफेंस में क्या कर रहे हैं, मैं आज तक नहीं समझा। भाई आपके पास इतनी बड़ी बड़ी मतलब DPSUs हैं, आपके पास इतना बड़ा
जनता को नहीं मालूम DPSU का मतलब क्या है।
डिफेंस जो पब्लिक सेक्टर यूनिट्स है ना सर, HAL है, BEL है,
ये बता दीजिए।
मैं आज तक नहीं समझा हूं सर इनका और इंडिया की जो हैवी डिफेंस इंडस्ट्री है। ये सिर्फ जब हमारे सेमिनार्स के थ्रू थोड़ी बहुत कोलैबोरेशन हो रही है, लेकिन दोनों मिनिस्ट्री, क्या सेक्रेटरी डिफेंस प्रोडक्शन और सेक्रेटरी हैवी इंडस्ट्री, क्या उनके वहां से कुछ जनरेट होता है, मुझे नहीं लगता सर।
चलिए तो
मतलब ये मैं मतलब देखो मैं आपको छोटी सी बात बता रहा हूं। एक टैंक, हम दोनों टैंक मैंने एक बड़े टैंक, मैं छोटा टैंक में सर, हम एक नया फ्यूचरिस्टिक टैंक बना रहे। अरे भाई रशिया में 2 टैंक फैक्ट्री नहीं सर्वाइव की, अरे जर्मनी के अंदर एक मेजर टैंक जायंट है, आप इधर 3-4 को दे रखा है भाई आप टैंक बना दीजिए, आप भी टैंक बनाइए, टाटा भी बनाएगा, भारत। अरे यू हैव गॉट द ओल्डेस्ट एंड द बेस्ट फैक्ट्री एग्जिस्टिंग इन चेन्नई। Avdi is one of the best, he will agree, the infrastructure wise it is as good as Ural wagon jawad of Russia। अरे भाई एक को दे दो, उधर देखो सर ऑर्डर बुक है, उधर ऑर्डर बुक है, उधर टेक्नोलॉजी है, उसके पास इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है, उसके पास भाई अगर PSUs नहीं चला,
फ्रीडम नहीं है।
नहीं आप दे दो ना, टाटा को, इन बिरला को बोलो, सबको बोलो भाई जिसने पैसा लगाना यहां लगाओ, और उसको बोलो भाई ये हमारी ऑर्डर बुक है, गुरु इसको आप अपग्रेड करते रहिए। दिस इज हाउ फॉरेन में थिंग्स हैव ग्रोन। रशिया में कंप्लीट स्टेट ड्रिवन डिफेंस इंडस्ट्री थी, आज वो स्टेट, अमेरिका में स्टेट इन्वेस्टमेंट,
चाइना ऑल्सो,
जर्मनी में स्टेट इन्वेस्टमेंट है, चाइना में सर आपने स्टेट इन्वेस्ट करके, और आप भी आज सोचो
इवन इन द यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स सारी इन्वेस्टमेंट तो स्टेट करती है।
ऑर्डिनेंस फैक्ट्रीज को आप लेके गए और फिर आपने PSU पे छोड़ दिया ले जाके कि भाई ये भी अब डिफेंस PSU है। तो मेरे कुछ जनरल जो इश्यूज है ना सर, वो मतलब मॉडर्नाइजेशन में, जिस रैपिड मॉडर्नाइजेशन जो होनी चाहिए, जो आपको चाहिए अमेरिका, मैं ये मानने को तैयार नहीं हूं कि चाइना, जो आप बोल रहे हो चाइना बहुत सुपीरियर है, हम उसको भूल जाए, मतलब मैं मानने को तैयार नहीं, बिकॉज 36 का आंकड़ा उससे है, और मैं ये कहता हूं अगर 36 का आंकड़ा उससे है तो चाइना तो, पाकिस्तान इज जस्ट इज टू स्टेट, मेरा मानना है, आई मे बी रॉन्ग, वो उसका एक सैटेलाइट स्टेट है, स्टूल स्टेट है, जो वो कहता है वो कर देता है, पैसा मिलता है यूज कर लेता है, अमेरिका को बेवकूफ बना देता है, चाइना को बेवकूफ बना देता है।
जो टेक्नोलॉजी है, दैट्स वन पार्ट ऑफ इट।
यू आर राइट,
एंड दिस स्ट्रगल दैट ही हैज हाईलाइटेड, ये कई दशकों से चल रही है इंडिया में। इट इज नॉट जस्ट डिफेंस, इन डिफेंस द मैनिफेस्टेशन इज क्लियर व्हेन देयर इज अ क्राइसिस। तो आज भी टैंक नहीं बना पा रहे, बट देर आर अदर थिंग्स इक्वली इंपॉर्टेंट विच वी नीड टू टेक नोट ऑफ। फर्स्ट इज कॉनोटेशन ऑफ विक्ट्री हैज चेंज्ड। चाहे आप आज ईरान की क्या विक्ट्री मानी जाएगी, अगर वो स्टेटस को सरवाइव कर जाते हैं, विल बी विक्टोरियस।
दैट्स करेक्ट।
So same when we talk of Pakistan or we talk of China, as the Admiral rightly said, China को हमने हावी नहीं होने दिया बॉर्डर पे, okay? And the gauntlet that was thrown to China was, you want to escalate, we are ready. May not be, but at least that was the message. So connotation of victory is either survival or just status quo. I'll take you to Op Sindoor. Op Sindoor में हमें मालूम है कि India performed exceptionally well against Pakistan. But Pakistan has also claimed victory. Domestic audience के लिए, किस पर्पज से? उनका मानना है कि स्टेटस को रह गया, इसके बाद things are back to where they were. So they are also claiming victory. So we have to, this state ground.
Let me ask you a simple question. None of you are from the Air Force. Now our squadron requirement is 42 squadrons.
That's right, sir.
We have 26.
No.
We don't have a fifth generation. Let's see the facts. No, we don't have a fifth generation aircraft. Right. Your Rafale is a 4.5 generation aircraft. Russia is not giving you a fifth generation aircraft. America, your greatest friend, ab ki baar Trump sarkar is not giving you the fifth generation aircraft, right? Now, in any warfare, I mean, not that Air Force has a very important role to play.
That's right.
Right? Now you say that, no, we are ready for deterrence. What deterrence are we talking about? I'm just putting this question just to say that, yeah, please.
Firstly, I have a slight variation with General Visham.
Yeah, sure. That's why we have the discussion.
Because you know, because there's a slight contradiction in terms. In some places we say we need state investment, we need state control, but that's exactly what DPSUs are. But yet, on the other hand, we say that we need to privatize because they're not performing to the same level. You have four shipyards, which are defense public sector units. Today, they are producing and delivering close to world average.
Good.
Not at, close to.
That's good.
We brought the timelines down. Some of the difficulties there still are because many of the equipment are still not Indian indigenous. So when you have to keep adapting, that also takes time because you need
always
to get so many people. But today that's what we are doing. We invested in it for that period of time, the same DPSUs. Same way is what HAL. There was a time when HAL in the 70s, you may correct me, sir, where they had all four. A trainer designed and built in India, a transport largely designed and built in India, a fighter designed and built in India, and a helicopter, though not designed but built in India.
तो तेजस का क्या हुआ?
So I'm talking 70s
अभी इतने साल हो गए, तेजस का क्या हुआ?
सर 70s में ये हाल था आपके पास कि आपने पूरा रेंज आपके पास था. You had, and now from there were you able to build up and bring it to that level. Why did we not do it? Where was the gap that came in? In fact, some of it is because the lack of hand-holding and jointness. It is this idea that, that is why I have that point of difference, ko usko alag chhod do. HL, as long as it had very close association with the Air Force, was on a certain trajectory. At a certain point when it went off under and separately, now you have a gap. Sir, आप कल अगर घर बना रहे हैं अपना, can you afford to be dissociate from the घर and say, I have got the luxury to come, मैं बाद में आकर मैं देखूँ मुझे कौन सा घर चाहिए? घर आपका बन रहा है, आपके पैसे से बन रहा है, आपके पास वो luxury और choice नहीं आकर, you have to be part of the building from the start. You have to be part of the design and management from the start. Now there is where the challenge is. That's why when I give the example of shipyards have done better, because the integration and joint management of the Navy and the shipyard has been far more symbiotic and synergetic than otherwise. So if you want to raise your defense industry, I would say it's the other way around. You need to have exactly what Jen Leke said, the fusion. You have to have greater amount of collaboration and cooperation as opposed to chhod do aur tum kuch
fusion
karke aa jao.
between which sectors? I'd like to know.
Between the armed forces firstly and the defense industry.
Yes.
So you can't afford to say MOD se nikal do because aapka jitna
Therefore
hai wo bhi chala jayega.
Why are we not trusting Science and Technology Ministry? I'm talking of fusion.
Yes, sir.
Why are you not trusting heavy industry? He's Indian. Why are the defense?
It's not a matter of trust. It is a
No,
matter of project.
what I'm saying is, no, let's see. See, since 2018-19, we had placed an order on Avdi for 400 odd things. And I don't want to speak how many they have delivered. I don't want to speak about it. It's painful. He will be painful. So why? Because dynamism has to be changed.
May I just interject on
please,
one point
please.
here? So the Navy was the first that went down the privatization route and private shipyards. We led the change to say go private. All of those private shipyards couldn't deliver. And
No, they won't. Private shipyards will not deliver till you integrate.
No, now they're coming up with age. We got set back by 10 years.
Yes.
But there was a spin-off. In the push to privatize, the public sector shipyards underwent reforms and transformation. To a stage where private shipyard was saying, please give us a nomination, we can't compete with them.
But
see, privatization will, by itself in defense in particular, will not give you results.
Let me confirm that the Navy has got it the best out of our service.
Yes.
They integrated. I'll give you, he's talking of Avdi, right? They now have a board on top. There are great experts who are available. What they have put is some XYZ जिसको favor करना था वो
यही तो problem है.
But the one word which I think is not just related to armed forces, is related to our DNA. We don't have accountability. मैं जब आर्मी हेडक्वार्टर छोड़ के 1 कोर जा रहा था, तो then defense minister called me, and since I was director general perspective planning, so पूरा procurement वगैरह आर्मी का मैं देखता था. तो इसे जनरल साहब आपका इतना एक्सपीरियंस है, बताइए क्या करें हम. मैंने कहा सर एक वर्ड है, प्लीज एस्टैब्लिश अकाउंटेबिलिटी. अगर आपका डिफेंस फाइनेंस कहता है कि ये प्रोजेक्ट नहीं होगा, ओवर रूलिंग एक्सपर्ट्स लाइक द चीफ हु हैज अप्रूव्ड इट, देन प्लीज आस्क हिम टू पुट द ऑल्टरनेट ऑन द फाइल. ही कैनॉट जस्ट रिजेक्ट अ केस एंड देन से अब जीरो से स्टार्ट करें. सो अकाउंटेबिलिटी हमारे देश में
And too much political interference, I'm sorry to say.
Sir, no,
sorry to say.
So I'll take us. I won't venture to comment on that, but let me put a more technical issue. The ecosystem looks at process. Accountability is there, but accountability under a different definition. Accountability in our ecosystem is audit trail. Have you followed the correct process? Whether it is 1 rupee or 10,000 rupees, our belief somehow is, I'm willing to spend 10,000 rupees to audit 1 rupee. We are not looking at the product, at the cost benefit. So somehow over a period of time, perhaps this is a legacy which goes back from the Mansabdari days, even pre-independence time in the colonial era, that the thought process is I have to establish an audit and an audit trail. I must follow the process. The process is more important than the product, because the people who are following the process when it was designed from the Mansabdari days were not interested in the product that somebody else was looking at. He said, तुम्हारा काम है process follow करो. Now that has reached a level today that we are still pursuing the process. The process has to be perfect. So the perfect figure that you have is a 0. अब इतनी perfection आप ढूंढोगे तो process will result in no product. Now, unless, as General AK brought out, the accountability has to shift from observing the process. Today, every accountability, and so you
are absolutely right.
You're a senior lawyer, you know,
Entirely
it says, did you follow the process?
I'll come
It
back.
should shift to say, did you deliver the product?
So I'll come back to the issue. See, when we are talking in terms that we are defensive basically, our doctrine is defensive, mentally we are defensive and we want to deny war. If you have to deny war, firstly you got to deny the airspace today. And then you think of dominating the airspace, no? Are we prepared air defense wise except S-400 and QRSAM and Akash? Are we in that league? We got to, war is in multi-domain, we keep talking about it. I just talked of the state of the satellite that we are talking about. I'm now talking about the next step. That if you are a defensive force, let's come to ground for later, which is our strength. लड़ाई भी सर अपनी स्ट्रेंथ पे लड़नी पड़ती है ना, अपनी वीकनेसेस पे नहीं. और यही तो ईरान कर रहा है. ईरान लड़ाई अपनी स्ट्रेंथ पे लड़ रहा है, ना कि अमेरिकन स्ट्रेंथ पे लड़ रहा है.
अरिथमेटिक वॉर.
सर एक चीज
तो सर आर यू रियली थिंकिंग इन दैट सीरियसनेस कि भाई हमारी एयर स्पेस बिल्कुल वी डिनाई, वी डू नॉट लेट इज ड्रोन्स एंड एवरीथिंग एंटर इनटू आवर स्पेस, बिकॉज टुडे व्हाई इज ईरान टुडे, व्हाट वाज इजराइल्स फिलॉसफी? डिनाई योर एयर स्पेस and you have air superiority, right? He was denying his airspace. That's why these guys were. It is to counter that they found a different strategy, different tactics, different warhead, different. They did know. So what I'm saying is, in our case, the fundamentals that we are basically not interested. We are not an aggressive country. हम किसी की जमीन लेना नहीं चाहते, ना हमारी सोच है, ना हमारी ऐसी, ना हमारी आगे होने वाली है. We just want to defend our country. We are not even thinking कि जो हमारा lost है उसको कैसे लेना है. Believe you me, कोई किसी की don't go by political statement. वो don't go by political statement. मतलब कोई ऐसी स्ट्रेटजी नहीं है लॉन्ग टर्म.
सर एयर डिफेंस की बात की,
मैंने आपसे पूछा.
हाँ, it's one of the most critical things.
Yes, right. That's why I raised the issue.
Till end of last century, our air defense, at least in the army, was running far ahead of all other verticals.
Neighbors.
Therefore, we took a conscious decision. We means the organization. कि इनको अब थोड़ा स्लो करें and let's catch up the others. We, I am afraid, could not visualize the kind of war that we will face.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yet, having said that, one arm that has performed very creditably in this Op Sindoor was our air defense and EW combined. I think they produce the kind of defensive, if not a shield, a cover. And this is going to play up more and more. Unfortunately, our best systems are imported.
This is the other problem.
And aged.
Yeah, they are aging.
Yes.
And so today, we are signing contracts with Russia for S-400.
That we'll get.
That we'll get, and that's a fantastic, almost the best system in the world. The Navy, which runs 2 aircraft carriers, if I just shift this to the Navy and the Admiral's views, there are 2-3 great debates.
The third submarine has just been launched, right?
So 2-3 great debates going on. Inter-service and intra-service priorities. Navy has got 2 aircraft carriers. There is a large section that feels that a 3rd aircraft carrier is required because one will be on rest and refit maintenance and you need for 2 seaboards. Some of us believe that the aircraft carrier is so costly that our focus will shift to protecting that carrier rather than the tasks which can today be done through drones, through long-range ballistic missiles, through long-range aircraft. So that's a debate which the Navy has to sort out. Similarly, for the Air Force, you mentioned 42 squadrons to cater for a basic need on 2 fronts. But that number was arrived at when aircrafts had less endurance. They had to come back.
So we don't need 42 therefore.
Now, you have a lot of unmanned, so maybe a 32, 35 Squadron Air Force.
I agree with you, but I mean that study has been done. I hope that study has been done. I hope there is a roadmap ahead. मुझे नहीं लगता, but हो सकता है.
And can I pitch in, can I pitch in and correct Admiral AK on one thing? I don't think we need 3 aircraft carriers. We need at least 4.
There it is. There it is.
Because there are open
पहली
seas.
बात तो
We have got
second part is
I deliberately.
Yeah, we
I'm
have.
saying I don't
totally
need
with
3. We need 4, and 4 I'm being
I was
conservative.
also on that.
And 4 I'm saying conservative.
Conservative.
Conservative 4. Second thing, sir,
ये
is
तो
you
आप
talk of
कहोगे
air
ही
defense.
you are
No, 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 no. You look
नहीं,
at
मैं
No,
वैसे
so I'm
Look
joint.
at the-
I'm United Services Institute.
Well said.
And I've been Deputy Chief Joint Operations. Because you said air defense. Air defense out at sea is a different environment.
I agree with you.
Aircraft carrier is not meant for,
Yes.
for in our concept, for going on and taking on a shore-based air force.
That's
It is to provide air defense out at sea. Today, sir, आपको पता है, 95% of your trade is on foreign flag vessels, not on Indian flag vessels.
That's right.
Anyone, one bunch of pirates on a dhow can go and target them. You can have drones out there who can
Yes,
target them,
absolutely,
which can fly 2,000 kilometers. So that is so that's why I thought, let me just inject
Absolutely.
that to my
Aircraft
guru and say,
carriers,
तीन बहुत कम है sir.
US aircraft carriers around there, and Iran knows that it's around
have
there,
we
but they are ready
taken-
to.
It
They are
is,
ready to
it
deal
is.
with it.
So the second part, now that I've disagreed with my guru, let me agree also that yes, you can do more with less if it is integrated, and that is the basic reason for jointness. I completely subscribe to General Bishambar's views on where he's looking at theaterization. I totally agree. I myself have been a proponent that we need to look at jointness first.
Yes, absolutely.
Get the structures, get the systems and processes. The minute you get the systems and processes, then your efficiency builds up. Then you're not looking at that every segment I need to man every kilometer of the border. I'm able to, by synergizing.
That's correct.
I'm
That's
able
why
to
they
get
talk
greater
of
value.
UAVs, loitering munitions, artificial intelligence, targeting and autonomy,
And a lot
electronic
of-
warfare, cyber operations,
Multi-domain operations.
multi-domain
And a
operations.
lot of this is not only there, we saw evidence of it last year in Sindoor.
If you are happy
It's
with
there.
Operation Sindoor, I have no further
So
questions.
it's like
On
this.
some-
I think
Sir, it's
that
like-
On
Sir, let me put
some
just a-
aspects.
Yes, sorry.
Sorry.
No, no.
Let me put it like this, sir. Any military man is never happy, he wants more. because you're catering for a worse situation.
Yeah, that's right.
You
have
don't
to
rest
think
and
ahead.
say
You have to
something
think
went
ahead.
off well. You're able to, you're always looking at, okay, I have learned lessons, the enemy will also learn even more lessons. So
Yeah.
you can't rest on what a situation it is. A crisis came, sudden point came, we prevailed, we had the capability to adapt. And let's also not think that this year we're in the same level of capability as last year, neither is the adversary. So constantly, as General Bishambar said, it's a 24/7, and in that 24/7, if I may just sum this up, the final equation is a multiplication of your force into your strategy stroke tactics. If you have enough force, I don't need very much of strategy and tactics. Go the United States way, wham bam, full attritional force.
That war,
Which also hasn't worked.
So there
If
are-
your force is lower,
then you have
then you need to bring in greater elements of strategy and tactics. And part of that strategy also is your technical strategy, your technical tactics, and bringing in
Adaptation.
what kind of war and what kind of terrain. That intermix will never be the same across two places and two times.
That's correct.
There are
Yes.
just three other issues I wanted to raise. First is whenever we undertake operations, either suo motu or imposed on us, we should have clarity on
Yes.
the end state and conflict termination.
Correct.
The problem in the US-Iran war is US and Israel went to war on some basic assumptions which proved wrong. And now they don't have an exit strategy. One. In our case,
I'm not sure Israel's assumptions are wrong.
Israel probably
I think
in
Israel
the
probably was very aware
yeah,
what they were doing.
in the larger context they wanted to draw. The second thing is endurance. So far, all wars that we have fought have been short and swift. Okay, sir? The world statistics suggest that the wars are lingering on, not just by your factors, but external factors that come into play. Our endurance, I won't quantify, I'm sure things have improved, is something that we need to look at seriously. 2-3 points. One is our stock holding levels. There is a 30-30 concept which translates to 120 days of war, but no country can afford to have that much of stocks because you don't turn them over with training wastage, and that's a dead loss. So a dynamic thing. Second is surge capability. We have very little surge capability. It's being established, especially ammunition. And third is that our critical equipment and ammunition, at least in the Air Force and Army, is of foreign origin.
That's the problem.
And that's a worrying factor if it comes, because alliances and preferences keep changing. And we don't know
We've
how.
seen that happen in the recent past.
That's right. So this endurance, and the third thing I wanted to raise, which is that he has mentioned it, the Admiral, that we haven't fought the bloody war that is being seen today in Ukraine, millions of casualties. World War, Russia, Battle of Stalingrad, 2 million dead, sir. Battle of Leningrad, 3 million dead. So our public has got used to war being a TV sport, which the militaries fight, and expectancy or that we will prevail. So we had one aircraft down, it created a different sense. I think the public has to be prepared that if there is a real war, there will be casualties. We have to.
No doubt about it.
So I was talking of strengths and weaknesses, right? So I talked of weakness in the air defense, which is very critical for a denial of airspace. Now I'm talking about a very critical issue from the Iran war. Iran war has proved that if it is sustaining today, despite all top leadership lost, sab mar gaye, koi nahi bacha, because of a highly trained IRGC. Kuch bhi ko, from outside, whatever it may be, you say terrorist, this, that, but for the Iranians, but for the nation, that IRGC, that means your human resources angle, when it comes, that's why I was saying I'll come down to the ground battle later, third one, right? I've not gone to the sea at present. So he dwelt 4 or 5,
he did.
So what I'm saying is, sir, ours is a border management also. Our clashes will take on border. If this standoff war which America is fighting, if we think this is the way India and the future may will fight like this, I don't think there'd be any result. I don't think there'll be just like Op Sindoor. He will claim, you will claim. His DGMO chodo. Did the chief come for a negotiation? Did you bring his prime minister to a negotiating table? I'm of the opinion, at the end of every war, if there is not a negotiating table where terms and conditions are really laid A, B, C, D, then you've not concluded any war the way it should be concluded. If that has to happen, sir, the basic thing in mountains and basic thing in with Pakistan is you need a different policy on manpower, not like what you've come out with the so-called, Agniveer. Believe you me, sir, it is, I mean, General AK can comment, however technological you will be. I first started that today technology is being concentrated in different domains. But in a case like ours, context like ours, manpower, where there will be ultimate weapon is your strength, and your strength has been your men, your people to fight, your infantry to fight, your armor to fight. That cannot be done with a thing like Agniveer.
I'll take a slight departure from that, sir. Let's remember, in the decade of war, today we are saying it's not an era of war, we are seeing it everywhere else, fortunately not for us, but the 1960s was the era of war. From 62 to 72, we saw 3.5 wars. What was the average service of our men in those times? 5 to 7 years each. Your color service literally till mid-70s was only 7 years. Your entire Second World War, where today we are a member of the United Nations because of the contribution of Indian troops. You are aware, sir, we are a founder member of the UN, signed as India.
Right.
in 1945, the only nation which was still not a state which is a member of the UN. Why? Because of the Indian armed forces, the Indian troops who took part. 2.8 million men under arms. How much training did they get when they went in? So it is, while it is very much a factor that has to be brought in, but we have enough historical precedents for us. I have retired just last year and I've worked with the Agniveers, and I went in with a very objective and a slightly skeptical view to say, keep an eye because this could be a weakness which we have to focus on. To my pleasant surprise, I found that whatever quality of training we are providing, the ecosystem we are providing, the way those young Agniveers, including the women on board ships, for which that is the most biggest challenge for us, have integrated is a very encouraging sign. It tells us, yes, there will be challenges. There are always challenges. But let's have the faith in the training system.
One second.
Let's not take a wrong lesson from Second World War. In the first phase, when the Japanese came in, your ill-trained forces, they reached Kohima, and we lost men. It is when we trained them hard, when units got into those formations, you bounced back.
I think
believe you me, you lost much more in the...
Shambar,
Well, there were 30,000 was the strength.
Some tweaking, 3 services have proposed, and I am of the understanding that the organization and the government are considering
I agree.
tweaking this system.
I think we should move away from Agniveer at the moment because there are lots of pros and cons on that. Let's leave that out. That's a separate debate altogether. But let me go back to my fundamentals. Fundamentals are any nation in the world which has got economic power spends $800 billion on R&D. Okay?
We don't.
China spends $650 billion. How much do we spend?
Not even 1%.
Less than 100. Okay? They integrate education with technology. They have private sector setting up campuses in educational institutions. They give state funding for that. That's where ideas generate. Right? That's the genesis of new technologies. That's what the US has done. That's what China has done. China's educational institutions are some of the topmost in the world. I believe, and this is my personal belief, India can never reach that level of technological advancements unless we integrate education with science, with private sector participation, and with state support. And in the absence of that, I'm afraid we'll never be the power we want to be.
I couldn't agree with you more. You've been the HR minister yourself, sir.
Yes.
And you would have seen it at first close quarters. In 2010, if I remember, the Planning Commission had said India needs 1,000 universities and 50,000 colleges.
Yes.
Yeah, you would have been the architect amongst those papers.
Yes.
Today, our education system is more an
Shambles,
examination.
in shambles.
It's an examination system.
No, apart from that, you have 50,000 rupees being given to ad hoc teachers in universities.
So now you're right. So if your base education system, and you look at Iran, so Iran science and
look at
technology
their
and maths
education
is 2 years, minimum 2 years ahead of us.
Yes.
What we teach in our class 10, they teach in class 8.
So I have been, after coming out of Andaman, teaching at Jindal Global University for 7 years.
Fine university.
Now I teach at IIM, some other universities. And let me say, while there is an increased concern to learn about security and defense, because my thing was super subscribed, but the integration which the Admiral talked of, you talked of, is just not there. All it means is they come for recruitment later, that's it.
This is the
There
real
are far
problem
too
in
many
India.
tables handling far too many things like procurement.
That is something possibly, sir, you could tell us why it has gone that way, because you brought in reforms in the...
No, because nobody's interested in education.
There is no
the only interest this country is in winning elections. I'm sorry to say. I'm saying it openly. See, the nation needs to be Atmanirbhar. And Atmanirbhar only happens when you integrate all these things and have your...
So I personally thought that when the new education policies come in, that is a game changer.
Where is it? On the ground.
Well, that's
As
the
you
point.
said, on the ground, there are lots
That's
of
the
different...
point. But that is, those are the changes that you bring in your norms
Sir,
that will lead to it.
we churn out 1 million graduates a year. They are not employable.
Yeah.
Because it's just a stamp to
This
get
is what it
that
is. So
thing.
we don't talk about this. This is at the heart of being a technologically strong country which
Sir,
can match any attack on
I
us.
just want to raise one issue. We have become very combatively politicized in this
That's
country.
true.
All of us, at least most of us, are apolitical.
That's correct.
in
I know
our
that.
view. And therefore, the country should ensure that the core values of its armed forces,
Remains.
in specific, being apolitical, being secular, and being professional.
So at this
remain.
point in time, with that, I want to close this discussion because that's the heart of the problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.